Resident Evil Dead Island. After several months since the announcements, the movie has finally been released. And when I tell you I was hyped for this movie, that is an understatement. The idea of a movie where all the OG protagonists come together to stop a bioweapon outbreak was mind-blowing when the first teaser dropped, and I'm glad to say it definitely lived up to its expectations. Today I'm going to be doing a no-spoiler review of this movie, giving my honest thoughts and opinions of probably one of the best Resident Evil movies to date. I'm going to start with a brief introduction to the movie. This will contain some info we had already learned prior to the movie's release, as well as what could be seen in the first 8 minutes that were released to Sony's official YouTube channel. If you would, however, like to skip this part so you can watch the movie without any prior information, there will be a timestamp on the screen now for when the actual review begins. The plot of the movie takes place in 2015 San Francisco. We're met with Leon sitting on his motorbike talking to Hunnigan. He's been sent in by the DSO to rescue Dr. Antonio Taylor after his kidnapping. After a tip-off, he would enter a chase with a van believed to be contained in the individual, only to be thwarted by a mysterious figure. Meanwhile, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine have been sent in after reports of zombie outbreaks around the city. Their mission is to find out what the cause may be. Claire Redfield, a member of TerraSafe, has also been sent into the city to a beach where she finds the carcass of an orca. The orca has a huge bite mark taken out of it, as well as samples of T-virus in the wound. After finding this out, she meets with Jill, Chris and Rebbeca Chambers, and they all find out that the victims of the virus have one thing in common. They'd all recently visited the island of Alcatraz. The team decides to head out and investigate themselves. Watching this movie was breathtaking. With the return of the original cast of characters excluding my boy Barry, this movie was almost like Avengers Infinity War but Resident Evil. Revengers? RCU? Into the Resiverse? I'll stop. Plus we kinda already got that. In all seriousness, seeing our favourite characters sharing the silver screen together was mind-blowing. This being our first time seeing some of these characters interact, and it was interesting to see how they would engage with one another, as well as all the references to prior missions, which just really made me happy. While we see everyone together, I'm happy to say this is very much, in my opinion, Jill's movie, dealing with the PTSD of Wesker's brainwashing and getting herself back into the field. With no real content in the main story featuring her since Resident Evil 5, excluding side canon and remakes, it was nice to see some modern day Jill badassery. That's not a word. I'm even happy to say that both Rebecca and Claire got a lot more screen time in this movie, as well as more prominent roles. It was a nice change of pace considering the past 2 entries they've been in the animation side of things, they were really pushed to the side. It was also definitely a breath of fresh air from the constant screen hogging of Leon and Chris. The voice acting in this movie was also amazing, bringing back many of the actors from some of the most recent games and remakes, including the return of Matt Mercer as mature Leon. Also going to use this moment to flex that I got to meet him a few years back. Really doesn't add anything to the script, just wanted to say. He's a nice guy. Comparing this to the 3 prior movies on animated Netflix show, I have to say, it really took a step up in the animation department. We could see all of our favourite characters like never before, with extremely smooth and semi-realistic quality. Like Jill, for example, looks almost one-to-one with her Resi 3 remake counterpart. Everything just looked amazing, and there's definitely no corners cut on this side of the production. This also made for some really cool fight scenes, some a little over the top, but nowhere near the levels of past entries like Vendetta and Infinite Darkness. Seems in the time since Vendetta, Leon has also learned how to drive his motorcycle properly, with no unnecessary casualties. Good job, Leon. Gold star, buddy. Finally, I'll finish up with some of my disappointments with this movie. Nothing too huge that ruined the experience, but some stuff that kinda bugged me. Resident Evil Dead Island has one glaring problem that they've also had in the past, and that's setting up characters to die. We see so many different characters like soldiers that are only really there to be human target practice. This movie focused a lot on getting our OG characters back together, but didn't really do much in the lines of trying to introduce anybody new. There was a point in the movie also, this being a tiny spoiler, where Rebecca Chambers is cultivating a vaccine for the virus. She would proceed to say a line somewhere along the lines of, "I hope this is enough," as she displays a case of 4 vials, as she's surrounded by like 7 BSAA agents. There was also one big elephant in the room with this movie, and that being Maria Gomez. When we originally got the first teaser trailer for Dead Island, we seen shots of Maria Gomez, which indicated this would be a sequel of Vendetta. But unfortunately, it didn't really feel that way. Given that Chris, Leon and Rebecca took out the remainder of her family in the last film, you would think she would play a much larger role in this film. This not being the case, as she didn't really get as much screen time in this movie. I'd say probably less than Vendetta, and once again was more of a henchman to the main villain. This was sad to see, as I thought they could have given her a much larger role. Not to mention, it's quite rare that we get a returning villain that hasn't been Wesker, so there was definitely a lot more potential for her. That being said, the few scenes she was in were very badass. My next and final gripe with this movie was the main villain, Dylan. That unintentionally rhymed. He was a fine villain for the movie, but my main problem has to do with his backstory and motivations. He was a soldier during the Raccoon City incident, but while on duty faced some hardships. While his backstory was a bit tear-jerking, I couldn't really find any connection with it to fuel his motives. I honestly felt it was quite hypocritical and didn't really fit his character that well. Not that he was a terrible villain, but comparing him to prior ones in the series, he was probably one of the weaker ones. Overall, I did really enjoy this movie though. I think it's probably one of the best out of the CGI series, and it only makes me more excited to see what Capcom and Sony have in the works for the future. Overall, I'd say it's probably about a 7 out of 10 for me. It was a very visually gorgeous movie and definitely a must watch for Resi fans. That being said, what were your opinions on the movie? Is there anything you liked or disliked? And if you haven't seen it yet, are you looking forward to? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this video. It's the first time I've kind of done like a scripted style video, and it was really fun to make. If you liked it, be sure to give it a big ol' like, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one.